Welcome home, family. Welcome home. We're just feeling inspired to record a little something that felt like it needed to be shared. I'd recently spoken with a dear brother of mine, and it definitely helped to spark this inspiration within me to share this message in this moment. Medicine. This was the medicine for the moment. Yeah, that was flowing through during that conversation. There was a lot of things said, but I think in particular I found this very interesting analogy came up around wounds, and I think I mentioned this in a previous video, that about loving our wounds and trying to put an end to the trying to put to an end of the wounds, and stop trying to banish the wounds, stop trying to get rid of the wounds. Love the wounds, integrate the wounds. The wounds are aspects of yourself, and part of that analogy, what was coming up, was how there's a time when we need to keep our wounds to ourselves, and we need to do that internal healing work to process these things. And then there's certain elements where of that healing process of the wounds, where, say, if you're using a plaster or a bandage or a wrap or anything like that, there'll be a time where that's completely appropriate to do so, and that is the best for your healing, to stop you bleeding out or getting infected or the situation getting worse. However, there will reach a time with all wounds that are being healed that at some point you will need to rip off the band-aid, rip off the plaster, and expose those wounds to air. You hear that, you've got to air it, let the air get to it. That will that will help to heal it. And I thought this was very interesting. I think this is exactly the same. This is no different to our internal healing that's taking place on a mental, emotional and spiritual plane of existence also, and how it can serve us for a time. So don't judge the wearing of the plaster and all of these self-soothing mechanisms that we've used to help us merely keep functioning upon this plane. That's worth a pat on the back. Well done. If you are somebody using any of these sort of methods, to self-soothe in this time, then well done for finding what works for you, to keep you going along this journey, which is certainly not always easy. And I know if you're a human, then you understand that, innit? So yeah, and then there's a time when we've got to bring it to air, got to bring it to the surface, and we've got to be around people with our wounds being shown, and to trust in the healing that's taking place. And as long as we're putting in that conscious effort, to break cycles, to be our truest, most authentic versions of ourselves, to raise above when it feels appropriate to do so, and to hold compassion and understanding, seeking a standing when it's not. And I just thought this was really powerful. And later on during that conversation, my dear brother of the light mentioned to me about how to be proud of your scars. And again, all of these these phrases that I've heard, heard many different ways, over my time or whatever, but it's only really been striking me recently. And I'm curious what other people's thoughts and feelings are on this subject of wounds and loving your wounds, and in a sense how best to heal the wounds, and most effectively and then proactively overcome these self-assigned limitations and barriers and the shackles that that we can slip right out of. We have the choice to slip right out of. And it was really, it was coming up for me. There was certain even quite literally, even certain scars on this physical vessel, which helped to they meant something to me. And how there would have been an aspect of myself in the past that would have judged these scars and what they represented, the meaning behind them, and the place I was in, the mental, the state I was in at the time. and a whole lot of judgment. And it was really beautiful during this conversation. We were just talking about being proud of your scars, and I noticed, and I was like, I can, there was a particular scar there, and I realised how proud I am of that specific scar, in the sense that for me, what it represented, and I'm curious to hear what people's thoughts are on this, so I may as well just be honest about it. It was, there was scars from self-harm and things like that, and I thought it was so beautiful how now what they represent to me is how I don't do that anymore. How there was a time when the only method that I knew to self-soothe and to cope with situations and to deal with that hate towards life and myself was to physically act out on this vessel, but now how, and the shame, guilt and judgment that went alongside that, and now how I can see these scars and marks and realise, this has made me who I am today. And because of that, I put that scar there in that time then, I'm not going to do that now. And I've learned better, more positive, just more fulfilling coping mechanisms where I can learn and grow through the pain and not just have to medicate it, medicating the symptoms, you know what I mean? Whereas, as I'm sure you can all understand, it's obviously we want to get to the root of these things. And I know that's obviously easier said than done, but I think a lot of the time it's about being honest and earnest with oneself, with just what's going on for you, how you're feeling, what's arising, what's presenting itself within your field. And then, really being honest, not, I find that a good one is always like, how does this serve me? I think I hear a lot of, I've heard it around, and I completely understand within the context, it makes complete sense. This doesn't serve me, and it's all about whatever works. So there'll be for some people, and they'll go, this doesn't serve me, and just stop it and move on to something else, and that's great. And if that works for you, then that's cool. But I've always found for myself that what can be a lot more deeper, and in terms of the innerstanding that I can gain from this experience, this exploration, is asking, how does this serve me? Because I've found that even the actions, the habits, the patterns which I deemed to not be serving me, they were serving me, and it was they just might be serving an unhealthy aspect of myself, and I've realised that I can gain a lot more out of whatever I'm looking into in that moment if I ask myself, how is this serving me? Because a lot of the time there might be a time where I'm like looking after myself, and it's like, how is this serving me? It's like covering up a fear. It's medicating this symptom as opposed to treating the root, the root of the wound. And I realised that a lot of the time, how is this serving me? There's a fear, I think when isn't this serving me? It's in my experience, it's been a lot easier for fear to enter that paradigm, which if you're going to be aware of it, of the energy when it comes in and how it's distorting, the frame, then that's great. But obviously that's like an extra step to be able to go completely into a state of fear and completely rationalize it. So I think that sometimes I find a safe space, is sort of the most integral part of that healing process. And then that holds the space, and for deeper understanding, deeper understanding of self to arise, and realize, okay, so when I was doing that unhealthy pattern, how it was serving me was, I was self-soothing this symptom, or or just whatever it is, whatever aspect of yourself that you're not liking at the moment, you're not loving, you can't see why it's there, you just want it to go away. You feel like you might not even be able to see a light because it's blocking, because it's blocking that light, or you get a glimpse of light, but it's so far away because of the weight of this darkness in between that it doesn't feel achievable, it doesn't feel possible in any way. And I think bit by bit we are slowly reminding ourselves that this is very much possible. We're reminding ourselves gently and compassionately of the reasons why we came here, and the way to serve, our own, individual way to serve. No one can serve just like you. No one's got your medicine. Only you have got your unique vibration of medicine. And there'll be, in that sense, there'll be certain aspects, certain wounds, certain, just discordant frequencies which will not be able to reach realignment without your said medicine, the light that you bring to the world. Whether that's through a conversation or whether that's through your mere being of light body, the presence on the grids, that are then linked with every other living organism, or upon this planet, sort of thing, and to take it a step further, holographically, so with all aspects within this universe. But yeah, keep staying true to yourself, keep shining, and follow your own guidance. Follow your own guidance, and take time to truly discern that guidance, because sometimes it can be confusing. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Have a nice day.
Okay.
Blessed be. Where were we? Yeah, I hope you guys are you're finding your peace and you're finding your joy within your day-to-day experience. I know that it can come in ebbs and flows, but generally speaking, I think it's really important to take that time to ground, to do whatever practices, self-care practices that I think help us to shine at help us shine at our brightest, and to those things that just make us feel good. I think a lot of the time, whether it's physically doing something like some form of exercise, martial art, or yoga practice, like whatever it is, and then breath work and meditation and those sort of arguably more physical, just it's more prominent the state of physicality within those practices. And then other things like musical expression or poetry or just speaking, just speaking your truth, whatever it is, in whatever shape or form it takes, I think is a real powerful aspect of self, which should not be forgotten. And I encourage us all to not let it lay dormant for a moment longer. You're shining, you are truth, you are beauty. We are collectively totality, unity, emanating, reflecting light, only for the sake of, for deeper understanding of self and what life is, and the roles we play, why we came, and the steps to take moving forward, But I just wanted to sit down, take a little time, take a breath, out in nature, listen, those beautiful birds, and just feel for what messages come through. Because I know that, especially the time that we're in upon Earth, in this current step of the cycle process in which we're all undergoing, I believe it can get tiresome, it can get confusing, it can get cumbersome, it can get overwhelming, it can all get a bit too much sometimes. And I think more and more we're being guided to seek self, realize, to seek self and then embody self. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it takes a little bit of seeking in order to find, but once we found it and we persevere with the practice, it then becomes embodied, and we need not seek that particular aspect anymore, because it's become integrated. And in this time that, who are you? What do you want? What sort of life do you want to live? What's your best life look like? Because it's not going to look like mine. It's not going to look like matey around the corner. We're all going to have our own unique cut, you know, as the diamonds that we are. And it's going to take different shapes and different forms, but I believe together, collectively, we fill in all gaps. We are holistically whole, you know? So, and just remember that, like, holographically, we are complete within ourselves, and then the aspects in which we cannot see as complete yet, there'll be fellow brothers and sisters which have embodied that and have you know, spent the time with that, because that's been part of their path, part of their journey, and we all just help to fill in the gaps, you know. And I think there's something so beautiful, you know. It's like living in community. One doesn't need to, each individual does not need to be able to achieve all the tasks. That's not, and it wouldn't be effective for it to be so. It's much more effective, and I believe, and you see this in communities, you know, everyone has their own skills that they bring forth and they contribute towards the community, and together, based on, you know, natural skills, and, you know, natural skills balanced with what people want to do, because you've got to, you know, there's got to be a passion, there's got to be a drive to want to do it, otherwise we're not going to get up every day to do it. That's facts, and I'm sure, you know, you'll have had experiences which will exemplify that. So focus on your gifts, and definitely I understand that there's a foundation aspect, which is, you know, yeah. I feel like in order to have a solid foundation, there has to be an understanding of the mental body, the emotional body, the spiritual field, and the physical body, of course. More and more am I being ushered into this care of vessel, gratitude for vessel, in the form of movement and nutrition. Yeah, in terms of movement and nutrition, yeah, I think it's a good way to encompass a lot of the priorities within keeping the physical aspect of ourselves at a well-nurtured state of being. Yeah, a functional flow. Yeah, in a state of functional flow. But yeah, very grateful to have the opportunity to sit here and share this message with you. If anything's resonated in particular, please feel free to comment below. And yeah, I would love that if there was, you know, as soon as there is an element of community, of multiple people messaging in the comment section, to support each other, because it really is. I want this channel to be all about supporting each other, and so, like, supporting each other in order to support ourselves as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, because to me that's sovereignty, you know, like, to be able to accept that there's aspects in which that I have not come to fully understand yet within myself, and that there are also aspects which I am further along with, and because I put in the time in, and we've all put in time to different aspects, we've all been learning something, you know. Whether I always use this as an example. I feel like when certain people might call certain people lazy, you know, because they don't see them like physically doing a lot or whatever. But I always think, well, if you've spent 20 years or whatever, like, chilling, you know, then you're a master chiller. That's something that you've put the time in, and hopefully you're able to gain some joy out of it. And I think that's probably the main thing, you know what I mean, is that we're all learning things, we're all developing, whether it's conscious or not, you know. So as best we can, try to remain conscious and try to keep self within focus, you know what I mean, where we might be slipping into some old patterns which, you know, we've done a bit of work around, and we've decided, oh, I don't think this is serving my highest self. Do you know what I mean? And you know, this was or you know, another way, this was serving a lower aspect of myself, you know. So yeah, and it takes authenticity, it takes open honesty, and it takes compassion and acceptance, because without that, why would you open up? If you're not going to open up to someone else about that, you're not going to open up to yourself, you know what I mean, unless the space is safe, which I think, yeah, which is why a safe space is so integral to the process, to the transition that we're all currently marching through onto the gates of ascension, the gates of heaven. restored upon earth once again, in whatever that means, in whatever sense that means to you, innit? Take what resonates and leave the rest. I always think that's a best way to go with these things, best way to go. And if there's somebody that you do trust in their information, and then they're saying something which doesn't feel, isn't resonating in accordance with yourself, then you have to be honest with yourself and realize, is that due to a fear that you're not pushing yourself with that, or is there something else in the way that might be blocking that? And be honest and compassionate with yourself in order to give yourself the love to overcome that, and to regulate yourself in order to be able to best face whatever task that is, whatever challenge, you've decided to set for yourself. But what a time to be alive, people. What a time to be alive. I hope everyone's feeling their blessings and learning their lessons, and I wish you nothing but serenity, compassion, acceptance, joy, abundance, peace, serenity, love. Stay shining, family. Shinuzao swaharimu shaya Baloosh.